We should talk about Suicide Squad because I feel like that's emblematic of everything. That game, I genuinely think will be a miracle if it doesn't bomb.
Yeah.
Like, I just feel like that is, people actively want to hate it. Like, it's emblematic of everything wrong with the industry. Well, not everything, but a lot of things wrong with the industry in regards to just boring game design. Like, I don't believe that Rocksteady wanted to make it. I just feel like it was entirely mandated by a corporate mandate to get as many loot systems and potential monetization systems in there as possible, even though they're having conversations saying it's not going to have that stuff. It clearly will, or it was designed for it, or maybe they take it out for launch or whatever. They've obviously delayed it by about a year to try and make some version of it that's more palatable. The guts of it are effed. Like, there's just no way that you can bring that thing back around. Especially with the state of the DC EU or whatever you want to call it and everything else, and Flash losing $200 million. It would be the live service elements. It's just that idea of there's a certain type of HUD. It's in Assassin's Creed. It's that whole mouse cursor HUD thing. It's the 4 tiers of loot rarity where there's a purple one at the top or whatever. I just think people are sick of it. I feel like the emerging backlash to Diablo 4, the sort of like the more time people spend with Diablo 4, and I feel like I said this when I first played it, and then it was the general reaction was like, well, that's just what Diablo is.
Yeah.
How repetitive and how boring Diablo 4 is because the enemies all scale with you. So nothing means anything in that game. It is all just designed to push you eventually towards the microtransactions with the premium skins to get the stuff that is more unique, because everything is just this big sort of mush of just like, do you want some game for infinite time?
Yeah.
And I feel like over time, the more people have played it, there is this conversation around it just being like, is it actually that good? Because it does lean too much on the live service infinite playtime thing. And it's just stuff like that. Games that aren't designed to be finished, that are just going to monetize the F out of you.
I hope they do go away. I want to finish more games, please. I want to throw one more in, if you'll permit me.
Always.
Back in the day when modern military shooters were like the big thing, I feel like we had a few releases that just kind of killed that dead. We had Medal of Honor, was it Warfighter, I think that game was?
Yeah.
And then we had a couple others where it was just like, we can't keep doing this anymore.
I need to shout out a specific game for this.
Go on.
There's I've just looked up the year for this. Do you remember Hour of Victory?
I don't know.
So after Modern Warfare, it was kind of just the whole like run across the 2000s of like Medal of Honor, Call of Duty, both sort of like blowing up, World War shooters, whatever. And Hour of Victory was the game that I just remember. It was sold on the fact that the bodies would ragdoll more than other bodies.
Right.
And that was all we had, because what else have you got to try and distinguish it? And Hour of Victory was like sold on the idea that it just had the best physics, only in terms of bodies would fly further. And I remember watching the gameplay going like, yeah, they certainly fly further, but there's nothing else to this.
It was such a nuts period because there were some decent games released in that time,
Yeah.
but none of them were Call of Duty. Even the ones made by DICE, like those Medal of Honor games, at least for the multiplayer portions, it always felt like a worse feeling Call of Duty. And I had no idea what they were trying to achieve with that when Call of Duty already had this massive player base. Like you said, like there was no innovation going on. It was just doing the same thing for about 5 or 6 years. And I think it was kind of Call of Duty itself that killed that period dead by going into sci-fi stuff with Advanced Warfare, with jetpacks and all of that jazz. But man, that was dying so much in those final years. I remember when the first Homefront game came out, and it was just, what are we doing? What's going on? Is this all we've got? Is this the only meal you have for me?
I don't even think Call of Duty now knows what to do. Like they came in as a World War shooter, Medal of Honor style, whatever. Modern Warfare was like medium changing, like entertainment defining.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, they pushed into space and jetpacks because assumedly Titanfall was going to be the big thing. Then it wasn't. And then they just sort of languished for a bit. Did World War II, didn't really do anything, like the WWE2 game. And then now it's just sort of like, do we just do Modern Warfare again? Okay, Modern Warfare 2 again. Let's just try that again. Because Black Ops 4 didn't work and we don't know and whatever. And then now it's just like, is Modern Warfare like just the only period that works for Call of Duty if you need to maintain that level of sales?
Definitely like the most popular for it, isn't it? Because like you said, every single time it's tried to stretch away from that in a way. People might enjoy it at first and then always go, well, we want that period back. We want that style of gameplay.
It was
back.
like the boots on the ground thing and like Battlefield 1. And like Battlefield 1 is like incredible and very like impressive on like a scale level. But I just remember like, just for me, having grown up through that period where we got so exhausted with World War shooters, as soon as it was like, we're going back to boots on the ground and World War, and I was like, can we not? We did this for 10 years, lads.
Honestly, something like Marvel vs. Capcom 3 or Street Fighter 5, which for a time, we had all of these fighting games that came out.
Which Street Fighter 4 brought back, to be fair.
Yeah, they absolutely did. But then after that, I think we just got a bunch of fighting games with no content. You know what I mean?
Oh, but Injustice 2 was just after that.
But there was a window in between them. There was definitely a window in between them where we had these games from Capcom and whatnot. In Injustice and Mortal Kombat, I think, very much the outliers, very much like skirted around this.
True.
But for the time, it felt like every other major fighting franchise was in dire straits because they just kind of mistreated the consumer in a lot of ways. They were putting out these bare bones arcade modes. They weren't investing much in story modes. And I just felt like we got a bunch of releases that didn't have much to them. Whereas on the other side of the field, you had NetherRealm with their franchises being like, this is how it should be done.
Yeah.
So it didn't kill fighting games for good, but I do think it killed a lot of key fighting franchises, at least for a little bit. And I think that's why we have Street Fighter 6 now, which learned those lessons and like kind of realized we can't do that again. We need to give the players something substantial. We need to come back in force. And I think we're back on the upswing. But I genuinely think there were a few years in like the early 2010s where it looked like it just wasn't going to be a big genre for the next.
That's a really good, the early 2010s is a wasteland for fighting games. Like it was, like Street Fighter 5 was like one of the worst ones in 2015, but then you also, like you said, like Dragon Ball FighterZ, I feel it was a massive deal, like finally nailing the Dragon Ball IP in like a 2D fighter, and yeah, like Injustice and then Mortal Kombat and everything. For me, it's quite it's low-hanging fruit considering just how much it's talked about at the minute, but the go-to live service model, like do anything else. A question from Jack Asbury who says, hey lads, what's your favorite kind of video game protagonist? A self-insert, an authored protagonist, non-speaking or fully voiced?
Oh, I'm surprised we've not talked about this before. This is another really good question. A really good crop this week, I think.
A massive thank you to everybody who sent in their questions. I didn't even do the standard intro, but massive thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Do you have one that comes to mind for this? I do, but...
I tell you what's funny is the first time I went through GTA 3, that was my first ever mute protagonist, and I played other games, but mute in terms of like overall, like obviously you have no voice acting in some older games.
Yeah.
Actually, no, that's not. Yeah. That would be the case. I was trying to think of other stuff where you didn't have voice acting, but I was so enraptured by GTA 3 that I didn't even realize Claude wasn't talking.
Right.
I was just for me, those cutscenes were edited so well, and they had such an array of like celebrity voice talent and everything else that I just kind of went through it. And I don't think I finished the whole game without realizing that, but it was one of those things where the conversation came after, especially as GTA 4's whole thing on ludonarrative dissonance came in, and like the idea of can you only do that style of game if you're playing as a blank slate, realizing that like, there are massive benefits to the mute protagonist. So I'll just take fully voice. Like I want a full character. I want to feel good that I'm embodying a character. I definitely like the customization side of it if it's like, Commander Shepard or something.
Yeah.
But give me a character that I love playing as, like Lara Croft or whatever. Like I want to feel good that I'm playing as that person.
I like them all. It's a cop-out answer. I think all of them have their strengths. All of them have maybe even a few weaknesses. My favorite games often are like the Naughty Dog style titles where you've got, like you said, these fully defined characters, these fully voiced characters. But I think my favorite of the bunch, and I kind of mentioned this when we did our best games of all time podcast, when we were talking about Red Dead 2. My favorite type of protagonist is one that's co-authored. So someone like your Arthur Morgan from Red Dead 2, or someone like Geralt from The Witcher franchise, where you have someone with a kind of loosely defined personality. They are a person who exists in the world. They're not an entirely custom character, but the developers give every player enough agency over them so that they're a little bit different. You can make different decisions. You can go down different paths. You can slightly alter that personality. You can change the way they look, but you're kind of in tandem authoring this character together, where they give you the basics and they give you a map of where you can go, and it's up to you to kind of navigate that character and personalize them in a way that's kind of truthful to you.